Hare Krishna, welcome to my Radha Madhav channel. This is Sindhu here. Today we are going to see, welcome back to the Krishna Katha, right? The topic of the story is Krishna kidnaps Rukmini. Very interesting, isn't it? Before that, let me all wish you a very happy Valentine's Day and a happy Nityananda Trayodashi. Today is the auspicious appearance of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. To help Sri Krishna in his mission, Lord Balram appeared as Nityananda Prabhu and he assisted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by spreading holy name of Lord throughout Bengal. And due to this current circumstances of COVID, we are all celebrating online and receiving the blessings of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Now, today we are going to see a beautiful Rukmini Krishna Kalyan, a beautiful pastime. Rukmini is one of the queens of Krishna in Dwaraka. So let me start with a small prayer. Nama Om Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nahamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pascharya Deshatarine. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Rukmini is, let us see with the introduction and then move on to the story. Rukmini is one of the queens of Krishna in Dwaraka. The story is from Srimad Bhagavatam, where it explains about how Rukmini Devi loves Krishna and how in the end Krishna marries her. It's also given in detail in the chapters 53 and 54 of Krishna book. Here in the story, Rukmini Devi has selflessly portrayed her love, devotion and desire to marry the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. She was the one who wrote a letter. With her consent, Krishna came to her and picked her to get her married off. Because nothing is greater than love. And they say if your love for the person is right, pure and true, just go ahead, nothing wrong in dreaming of marrying a person you love and long to live with. But the question here is, why are people so confused in this material world? Maybe one, they do not know. Secondly, they haven't read about it. Or thirdly, what they search is what they end up with. Or could be they have no idea at all. Right? It sounds funny though. So the title says Krishna kidnaps Rukmini. But usually that is how it is told. But Lord Sri Krishna took his rightful bride and shown to the world the protection of rights of a woman to choose her husband. Sri Krishna also proved that he will never let down those who surrender faithfully unto him. Hari Bol. So let us move on to the story. The king of Vidarbha, Maharaj Bhishma, had 5 sons and a young daughter known as Rukmini. Many saintly persons used to visit the king's palace, and from them Rukmini obtained information about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Simply by hearing about the opulences of Krishna, she desired to surrender herself to his lotus feet and become his wife. All the relatives of King Bhishma agreed that Rukmini should be given in marriage to Krishna. And after hearing how Rukmini was a reservoir of all the transcendental qualities like intelligence, liberality, exquisite, beautiful, righteous behavior, Krishna himself decided she was fit to be his wife. However, Rukmini's brother Rukmi, he arranged for her to be married to Shishupal, a determined enemy of Sri Krishna. When the black-eyed beautiful Rukmini heard of this settlement, she became very morose, sad. But being a king's daughter, she could understand political diplomacy and therefore decided to take immediate steps to acquire Krishna as her husband. After some deliberation, long discussion, you can say, she wrote a letter to Krishna. Of long thought, she wrote a letter to Krishna and entrusted it to a Brahmana messenger. Without delay, she sent him with a letter to Krishna's capital city of Dwaraka. The next scene, reaching the gate of Dwaraka, the Brahmana messenger, he informed the doorkeeper of his mission, and the doorkeeper led him to Lord Krishna, who was sitting on a golden throne. After the Brahmana was duly greeted according to the formalities, etc., he carefully read Rukmini's letter to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality. The letter said, "My dear Krishna, O infallible and the most beautiful one, I have heard of your transcendental qualities. I may be shameless in expressing myself so directly, but you have captivated me and taken away my heart. I am an unmarried girl, young in age, and you may doubt the steadiness of my character. But, my dear Krishna, since you are the supreme person among persons, any women of the highest chastity would desire to marry you, being captivated by your unprecedented character, knowledge, opulence, and position. I know that you are very kind towards your devotees. Therefore, I have decided to become your eternal maid servant forever. My dear Lord, I dedicate my life and soul unto your lotus feet. I have selected your Lordship as my husband, and I request you to accept me as your wife. You are supremely powerful, O lotus-eyed one. Now I belong to you. It would be ludicrous or so foolish if what is enjoyable for the lion is taken away by the jackal. Therefore, I request you to immediately take care of me before I am taken away by Shishupal. Please come here and catch hold of my hand so that I may not be touched by Shishupal and his men." So this was a letter written by Rukmini Devi to Krishna. Lord Shri Krishna was very pleased to hear Rukmini's letter and statements. He shook his hands with the messenger and said, "My dear Brahmana, I am very glad to hear that Rukmini is anxious to marry me, since I am also anxious to get her hand. I can understand that Rukmini's brother has arranged her marriage with Shishupal in a spirit of animosity towards me, so I am determined to give him a very good lesson. I shall, like he gives an analogy, just as one can bring forth fire from ordinary wood by proper manipulation, similarly, after dealing with the demoniac prince, I shall bring forth Rukmini just like a fire from their midst." So when Krishna heard that Rukmini's marriage was scheduled for the following day, he decided to leave for the kingdom of Vidarbha immediately. He ordered his driver to harness the horses to his chariot and prepare for the journey, and they started at once. And within a single night, they rode around 1,000 miles to their destination, 1,000 miles, and to the town of Kundina. Krishna's elder brother, Lord Balram, soon received the news that Krishna had left for Kundina, accompanied only by a Brahmana, and that Shishupal was there with his ally Jarasandha and a large number of soldiers. Suspecting that they would attack Krishna, Balram took strong military divisions of chariots, infantry, horses, and elephants and rode to the town of Kundina. Meanwhile, inside the palace, Rukmini was expecting Krishna to arrive. But when neither he nor the Brahmana messenger appeared, she became full of anxiety and began to think how unfortunate she was, and she thought, "There is only one night before my marriage day, and still neither the Brahmana nor Krishna has returned. So I cannot understand this," she grieves. Being the super soul of all the living entities, Krishna could understand Rukmini's anxiety. So what he did, he sent the Brahmana inside the palace to let Rukmini know that he had arrived. When Rukmini saw the Brahmana, she was elated. She smiled and asked him whether or not Krishna had come. The Brahmana replied, "The son of the Yadu dynasty, Shri Krishna, has arrived." He further encouraged her by saying that Krishna had promised to marry her away without fail. Rukmini was so thrilled by Brahmana's message that she wanted to give him in charity everything, whatever she possessed, whatever she had. However, finding nothing at hand suitable at that moment for presentation, she simply bowed down and offered him her humble respects. So when King Bhishma heard that Krishna and Balram had come, he invited them to see the marriage ceremony of his daughter. He arranged to receive them and their soldiers in a garden house. As was a Vedic custom, the king offered Krishna and Balram honey and fresh washed clothes. Meanwhile, Rukmini came out of the palace to visit the temple of goddess Durga. She was dressed very beautifully, and as she proceeded towards the temple, she was very silent and grave. Her mother and girlfriends were by her side. She was surrounded by royal bodyguards. In this way, she entered the temple and offered her prayers to the deity. Ordinary people pray to Durga Devi for material wealth, fame, strength, and so on, so on. Rukmini Devi, however, desired to have Krishna as her husband, and therefore she prayed to the deity to be pleased with her and bless her. Then she caught hold of the hand of one of her girlfriends and left the temple accompanied by others. All the princes and visitors assembled outside the temple to see Rukmini were struck with wonder. The beauty of her green eyes and pink lips were enhanced by her scattered hair and different kinds of earrings around her, and she wore this jewelled lockets. All in all, the bodily lustre and beautiful beauty of Rukmini Devi, which was specifically intended to attract the attention of Krishna only, but she was not at all proud when all were gazing upon her. She was very humble and she smiled very innocently, and her teeth appeared just like those lotus flowers. Expecting Krishna to take her away at any moment, she proceeded very slowly towards her home, and her ankle bells tinkled very mildly. All were overwhelmed by her beauty and almost fell unconscious from the backs of their horses and elephants. Full of lust they were all. They hopefully desired Rukmini's hand, but she was not at all interested in any one of them. Only her Krishna, right? So she was not interested, and in her heart she was simply expecting Krishna to come and carry her away. As she adjusted the ornaments on the fingers of her left hand, she happened to look upon the prince. Suddenly she saw that Krishna was one among them. Although she never seen Krishna before, but she was always thinking of him, Krishna. So she had no difficulty in recognizing him at all. So ignoring the other princes, Krishna immediately took Rukmini and placed her on his chariot, as you can see, the golden chariot. Right? He took away, and he then proceeded slowly without fear, taking Rukmini away exactly as a lion takes a deer from the midst of the jackals. Meanwhile, Balram appeared on the scene with the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty. And now Jarasandha, who had previously been defeated many times by Krishna, he began to roar, "How is this? How can this be possible? Krishna is taking away Rukmini, away from us without any opposition. What is the use of us being chivalrous fighters? My dear prince, just look, we are losing our reputation by this action." All the princes led by Jarasandha then became very angry at Krishna for kidnapping Rukmini. They stood up and properly armed themselves with their bows and arrows. Terrible fighting started between the two aggressive groups ensured. They fought as severely as possible. Rukmini was seated by Krishna's side on his chariot. She became very fearful when she saw arrows of the opposing party and was grateful that Krishna had taken such a great big risk alone. She felt very sorry for Krishna. Krishna then understood, and he encouraged her with these words. "My dear Rukmini, don't worry. Please rest assured that the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty will kill all their opponents without any delay." As the fighting progressed, the princes and soldiers of the enemy began to fall down from their horses, elephants, and chariots. So Rukmini's brother Rukmi, however, was very agitated. He was also determined to personally teach Krishna a big lesson. He drew his bow and forcefully shot 3 arrows directly against Krishna's body. Then he condemned Krishna, saying, "You are the most abominable descendant of the Yadu dynasty. Stand before me for a minute so that I can teach you a good lesson." Rukmi says, "You are carrying away my sister just like a crow stealing clarified butter meant for use in a sacrifice. You are proud of your military strength, but you cannot fight according to regulative principles. You have stolen my sister, so now I shall relieve you of your false prestige. You can keep my sister in your possession only as long as I do not pin you to the ground with my arrows." So upon hearing all these crazy words from Rukmi, Shri Krishna immediately shot an arrow and severed Rukmi's bowstring. Rukmi then took up another bow and shot another 5 arrows at Krishna. Attacked for second time by Rukmi, Krishna again severed his bowstring. Again Rukmi took up a bow, and yet again Krishna cut his string. Having run out of bows, Rukmi took assistance of swords, shields, tridents, lances, and similar many other weapons used in hand-to-hand combat. Krishna destroyed them all in the same way as he did before. Repeatedly baffled in his attempts, Rukmi finally took out his sword and ran very swiftly towards Krishna, just as a fly hurtles towards a fire. As soon as Rukmi reached him, Krishna cut his weapon to pieces, took out his own sword, sharp sword, and prepared to kill him. But Rukmini, understanding that Krishna was not going to excuse her brother, what she did? Seeing all these, she fell down at Lord's lotus feet immediately. In a very grievous tone, trembling with great fear, she began to plead with him. Please, 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 Krishna, do not kill my brother just before the auspicious time of our marriage. I am very happy to get you as my husband. Right at the last moment before my marriage to Shishupal, but I do not want a marriage to cost my elder brother's life. After all, he loves me. And he simply wants me to marry someone who, according to his calculations, is a better man than you. So, understand him. So, what happens? At Rukmini's request, Sri Krishna grew compassionate, as you can see in the image, right? Rukmini Devi, Krishna and Rukmi. Three of them are there, and Krishna trying to, deal with Rukmi, and Rukmini pleading Krishna not to kill her brother. You can see the image. It's a very beautiful image. At the same time, he wanted to give him some slight punishment also, right? So he tied up Rukmi with as you can see, with a piece of cloth and snipped at his moustache, beard and hair, leaving some spots here and there. So finally, Krishna then brought Rukmini to Dwaraka, and a very happy ending. That's what we are going to see now. All the inhabitants were very happy on this occasion, and in every house there were great ceremonies. The citizens of Dwaraka were so pleased that they dressed themselves with the nicest possible ornaments and garments and presented gifts to the newly married couple. So, this story, my dear friends and devotees, how Krishna kidnapped Rukmini. Hope you all enjoyed as much as I did while narrating it. It was poeticized, and the professional readers recited it to everyone. In this way, all the inhabitants of Dwaraka were extremely jubilant, seeing Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Rukmini Devi, the Goddess of Fortune, peacefully united. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. So, I conclude this today's video, and I hope and pray to the Supreme Person, Shri Krishna, and his consort Rukmini Devi, to be pleased upon us and this narration of today, and those who are all hearing, be pleased and, be blessed, right? And I pray on behalf of all of us that we also attain the lotus feet of Shri Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpataruptascha kripa sindhu bhai evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. Once again, it's a happy ending, so you can see in the image. Thank you. Catch you all with another beautiful motivational video. Hare Krishna.